Apologies for this commercial interruption. If you love Sandy like I do, please check out his YouTube channel. I will leave a link down below. And if you love board games, please check out petersengames.com. One of my bigger questions was during that time there was a lot of competition. The RTS genre was booming. Warcraft, Red Alert. How much did you focus or play other games and say, okay, I like this mechanic, I want to do something similar, or I don't want to take this because then our thing becomes there. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so the designers were very key on having everyone in the company know what's going on with other people. Okay, so we would actually have presentations to the whole company where we'd show them a game like Dominion, which I view as largely a failure one, or Sorcerer, which we view as kind of a success, a weird success, but a success. And we show them other people's game. We never did this for Warcraft or StarCraft. You figured if they don't know about those, they
probably shouldn't be working here. Okay.
Right. But we'd actually have things where we say, look at this other guy, look at this other guy's game. Check it out. Look what they're doing. What are they doing that's good? What are they doing that's bad? What can we take from this?
Right.
Useful for us.
Even from games that weren't as successful, you could take some mechanics that, wow, this is amazing. Why didn't we think of this?
We talk about Dominion. We regarded as largely a failure, but we got it and we said, okay, Dominion is a flop as an RTS game, but look, it has this good thing. It has this good thing. It has this good thing. Let's keep that in mind for the art, for the scripting, all that kind of stuff. So we would actually do that. Now, part of the reason that we did that, I'm not even going to say I was the main guy behind it, but I was one of the guys behind it. But one of the reasons I was very interested in it is because id Software had a super deadly case of not invented here, NIH, where anything that didn't come from inside your company is bad and inferior, and you shouldn't look at it. It's blasphemous. So id Software would sit around and talk about how terrible Unreal is. Oh, Unreal's a terrible engine. Says, why is it terrible? I would ask. And they said, well, instead you carved your level out of a big block instead of building it with planks. And I'm like, okay, so their level never has leaks in it then, right? And he goes, well, no, but it's not. It's the wrong way, right? It's bad. And I would do things. I would say, look at this cool Unreal level. It's like you're on a train. And if you fall off the train, you die. How amazing is that? We can do that. They go, oh, well, we're the real deal. They're just copying us. And they would never listen to anything anyone was doing. So it's like Serious Sam came out and totally punked us in terms of fun.
Right.
And we just didn't want, we thought we were so great that we couldn't learn from anyone else.
That's unfortunate.
And that was, I agree with that. Where do you think Doom 3 came from?
Right.
Right. So that was so dire that at id Software, not id, at Ensemble Studios, me and Mark and some other guys made Mark Toronto, who now works, I think, at Microsoft. We made sure that wasn't going to take hold there, and we've already, it's the designer's job to do it because the programmers have their blinkers on, and the artists more than anyone else have it are NIH guys, and it's not their fault. They have to be that way. To be able to have the confidence to do their job, right?
Right.
Kind of the same principle as every Air Force pilots, if they have any skills at all, every Air Force's pilots think they're the best. And rationally, obviously, they can't all be at best. Someone must be the best, probably it's the Israelis. But
right. But it's good to have the confidence.
but if you don't have that confidence, then you not only, even though you're not the best, you will be among the worst if you don't have the confidence, right? So if Chinese pilots ever go up against Americans, which I pray never happens, if the Chinese don't think of themselves as being the best when they go in, they're going to lose a lot worse than if they do.
There was a thing in us. I was watching a Netflix documentary about this, these great coaches, and this tennis coach was coaching Serena Williams, who was playing at Wimbledon. She was doing really bad coming to the net, right? He was horrible. And he came to her one practice and he said, "Hey, you're really good at the net. You're doing really well." And she's like, "Really? I thought I was doing bad." And he pulled out a fake piece of paper. He's like, no, you're winning 80% of the shots when you go to the net. And she's like, no way. He's like, yeah, maybe you think in your head, maybe you're doing worse than you are, but you're actually, he walks away. The next day, she starts going to the net. And sure enough, she starts doing 80% wins at the net. Right.
Well, it's the magic feather. You've seen Dumbo.
Yes, yeah.
Remember the magic feather?
Yeah.
That Dumbo can fly. Right. But here's the problem. See, as a game company, you have to have the magic feather in one hand and the not invented here problem in the other. You can't just use the magic feather. And that's what id did. We just had the magic feather.
Interesting.
So that means we were doing things that were failing at times. Instead of just having confidence, we were like blustering.
Right.
You know, you have to also be, and it's okay to recognize that other companies can do good things. You know, for one thing, it enabled us to, at Ensemble Studio, we could hire people from other companies without thinking that company was bad. You know, like we hired away the head tester from the Ion Storm Games, which was, of course, the company that had Daikatana, which was a terrible bomb. But we figured this guy, if he'd been the guy in charge of testing Daikatana, then either he knew his drill really well and he'd seen the worst, right, or he sucked. And we talked to him, and it turned out he knew his drill really well, and he explained to us again and again how and when things went wrong in Daikatana, and he had a really good analysis of how it had gone wrong.
Fascinating.
So we took him on, Alex Quintana. I don't know what he's doing now. But
so if a system fails, that doesn't necessarily mean all the components in the system are bad, right? That's
right.
Kind of the.
Well, he got overridden. Like one of the things that was happening, and this is, see, John Romero, for example, at Doom, he's a very enthusiastic, very positive thinking guy, which is really good. He's that magic feather guy, right? In the best way possible. But he also tends to be a little short-sighted. And we had guys like that at Ensemble Studios too. Don't get me wrong. There were some guys at Ensemble Studios that were amazingly short-sighted, and they were just like, if they lost the most recent fight, then it wasn't their fault. It was something wrong with the balance that lost them, because they obviously were perfect, right?
Yeah.
So now John Romero wasn't like that. But what he would do, he would play the game. He really loved the rocket launcher. So Quintana and the other testers would balance all the weapons so that every single weapon, because it's not supposed to be like a best to worst weapon in Doom, right? Or it's supposed to be like every weapon has its position, has its place. Okay. Sometimes the shotgun's better, sometimes the machine gun's better, sometimes the rocket launcher's better, sometimes the plasma. Each have times they're good to use, right?
And depending on your skill set, I assume, or depending what you're good at, right?
Where you're fighting, where you are, what the situation is. If you're in narrow, cramped halls, maybe the rocket launcher's not so great, right?
Right.
If you're trying to snipe something at a long ways, the shotgun may not be your choice.
Sure,
right?
Sure, that too, yeah.
So that was the idea. So they would balance every weapon so they all work perfectly good. Then John Romero would play it and say, "Oh, and this is from Alex Quintana. He'd say the rocket launcher isn't good enough, and he'd double its damage right there. Punk.
That seems excessive.
Well, that's what he'd do, and then they'd send to another month carefully rebalancing everything again so it all worked. Then John Romero would play it and said, not good enough, and he'd double it again.
Oh my god.
So it's like
so much work for such. Yeah,
I know, right? But I think John Romero, who I loved working with, I think he was better at id than he was in Ion Storm, and I knew I do this with no iota of proof, having not been at Ion Storm, based on the fact that at id Software he couldn't just do whatever he wanted. Everything was like there was give and take. Right? People would say, "Oh, you need to do this." There was counterbalances. I mean, I wasn't an owner. I was a lowly minion, but I could argue John Romero out of things.
Interesting.
You know? He respected me because I knew a lot about games. But I don't think there was anyone at Ion Storm that was doing that. So he just